you have a rematch clause. Do you want to do this again?
Claro que sí. Claro que sí. Esto no se queda así.
Yeah, of course I do. This doesn't end like this. All right, Canelo, thank you. We'll turn to Dimitri Bivol. Dimitri, Canelo says he wants a rematch. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, no. Rematch. No problem.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So that was a clip of Canelo Alvarez right after he lost to Bivol saying, of course I want the rematch. This doesn't end like this. So far, it did end like that. And that was Canelo Alvarez's choice. So by May time, it'll be 2 fights later that we still don't know if Canelo Alvarez is going to be fighting Bivol again. But we know for absolute sure that he will be fighting against John Ryder. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, John Ryder, he almost lost to all of the fighters that Canelo Alvarez beat. He lost to Rocky Fielding. He lost to Caleb Smith. He lost to Billy Joe Saunders and a couple other fighters we've never even heard of, which one even knocked out John Ryder. Now listen, because John does have some decent wins over Danny Jacobs and Zach Parker, John Ryder would be a great opponent if he was fighting Edgar Berlanga, if he was even fighting David Morrell, which he avoided. He was actually ordered to fight David Morrell, and he turned that fight down a while ago. But if he was fighting against someone who was stepping up in competition, then that would be a good matchup. For Canelo Alvarez, we already know who he was expected to fight. The likes of Bivol. He has a rematch clause with Bivol, right? He's supposed to be fighting the likes of Jamal Charlo, someone he's been avoiding for 7-8 years now, right? He's supposed to be fighting against Andre, David Benavidez, David Morrell. These are the fighters you expect Canelo Alvarez to fight. Speaking of a rematch clause, do you guys know how rare it is for a fighter, a champion, to lose to someone, have a rematch clause, and not take it immediately? Sugar Ray Leonard had a rematch clause with Roberto Duran. He took the rematch immediately. Lennox Lewis had a rematch clause with Hasim Rahman, took the rematch immediately. Even Deontay Wilder, he forced Tyson Fury to take that third fight because Tyson, he wanted to go a different direction. So Deontay Wilder, he had to get a mediator, he had to get a judge, he had to do a lot to legally get the third fight. And here Canelo Alvarez is, almost 2 fights later, still hasn't took the rematch. The only fighter I can think of that did this is Oscar De La Hoya. Oscar De La Hoya had rematch clauses with Felix Tito Trinidad and Shane Mosley. He lost to both of them and turned down a rematch with Tito Trinidad. He turned down a rematch with Sugar Shane Mosley too for at least 2 years until Shane Mosley ended up losing to Vernon Forrest. He lost to him twice. That's when De La Hoya decided to take the rematch. And it was crazy because for 2 whole years, Shane Mosley was constantly calling out Oscar De La Hoya. He wanted to do the rematch clause that Oscar De La Hoya had. And then you had Antonio Margarito, who had lost to Paul Williams. Now, and I don't know if Antonio Margarito had a rematch clause, but Margarito did lose his title to Paul Williams, and it was Paul Williams that called out Margarito for like the next 2 years to make the rematch, since the first fight was so competitive. So outside of Canelo Alvarez, these are some other fighters that did the same thing. Now, Canelo Alvarez, he'll be fighting another European fighter next. He's fighting against John Ryder. It's crazy because I used to be able to call Canelo Alvarez the pound-for-pound king against European fighters. I can't even call him that anymore because he just got beat by a European fighter. So Canelo Alvarez, he'll be fighting against John Ryder in May in Mexico. And this is pretty interesting. Canelo Alvarez, he wanted this fight so bad against John Ryder, he actually took a massive pay cut. I'm talking about a serious pay cut where he's making half the money that he would usually make. Now, and I'll tell you why this is so ironic. Because usually when Canelo Alvarez is avoiding the big names, when he's not taking the fights that all the fans want to see him involved in, you'll usually hear Canelo Alvarez fans saying, hey man, it's all about the money. Boxing is a business, etc., etc., etc. They use the money excuse to justify Canelo avoiding tough competition. But meanwhile, Canelo Alvarez is taking less money, less than half, to fight against easier competition. And that's because this was the safest opponent that Canelo Alvarez could fight. Now, this is what Canelo Alvarez said when he was talking about this massive pay cut that he's taken to take this fight. He says sometimes it's not about the money. Sometimes it's about pride, and it's about that time. I don't need to say how much I lose because I don't care. I feel good to fight in my hometown, and I'm proud. But we all know if Canelo Alvarez was fighting David Benavidez in Mexico, if he was fighting Jamal Charlo in Mexico, he would be making way more money. The WBC reported that they're going to give away 8,000 tickets to the fans. And the tickets are going to go as low as $17 a pop. But I tell you this, Canelo was definitely smart to put this fight in Mexico. It's going to be a huge arena. It makes sense to put the fight in Mexico because this is a fight that no one is interested in. So if you're going to fight against someone that no one cares you're fighting, you might as well fight him in your backyard. You know, Canelo was asked by one of the reporters, they was telling him that, you know, he's getting criticized a lot for taking on John Ryder as an opponent. And Canelo basically said, they complain no matter who I fight against. He said, if I fight against John Ryder, they complain. He said, when I fought against Bivol, they complained about it. But the difference is, listen, you could say something like that if you're fighting against someone that all the fans want to see you fight. But you can't say that when you're fighting against guys that no one asked you to fight. They used to do polls on the internet that had hundreds and thousands of votes of who you want to see Canelo Alvarez fight against. Every single time, Jamal Charlo came in with the most votes. So if Canelo would have fought Jamal Charlo, then it would have made sense for him to say, man, no matter who I fight, they complain. Because Floyd Mayweather can say that, right? These fans kept asking for Mayweather to fight Manny Pacquiao. I'm talking about months before the fight was announced, they were still asking Floyd Mayweather to fight Manny Pacquiao. And as soon as he beat Manny Pacquiao, we heard what they said then. Then they wanted to make excuses, right? When Canelo Alvarez was calling out Floyd Mayweather, fans were saying that Floyd was ducking him. At least Canelo fans were saying that. Of course, as soon as he dominated Canelo, they switched it up real quick, start coming up with excuses for why Canelo Alvarez lost. Oh, he was 23, he was inexperienced. But guess what? Devin Haney is 23, and he's about to fight a Lomachenko that's younger than Floyd Mayweather was when he fought Canelo. And guess who the favorite is in that fight? The 23-year-old. But who was the favorite when Canelo was fighting against Mayweather? The 36-year-old, right? But now the 34-year-old Lomachenko is the underdog against Devin Haney. We know what time it is. The only way the Canelo versus Bivol fight would have made sense at the time is if Canelo would have already cleaned out the super middleweight division. If he would have already beaten David Benavidez, Jamal Charlo, or even David Morrell. If he would have did that, then everyone would be clamoring for him to fight against Bivol at 175. This is the reason why Devin Haney is staying at 135 right now, so he can get the Lomachenko fight. The man that ESPN said was pound for pound one of the best fighters above Devin Haney after Devin became undisputed. Also a man that Bob Arum said was greater than Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, and all of them. This is who Devin Haney decides he's going to fight before he moves up in weight, even though it's getting harder and harder for him to make the weight. That's what a fighter is supposed to do before he moves up to challenge anyone else. The only way you should be moving up is if there is no more competition in that division, or you just can't make the weight anymore. Kind of like Inoue's situation. He's moving up to fight against Stephen Fulton, and there was no more competition at 118. There never was. So with that being said, we don't know who Canelo is going to be fighting after John Ryder. Eddie Hearn is already talking about making Canelo versus Edgar Berlanga next. And I guess the Canelo retirement tour has already started, because this is what Chavez used to do. He used to go on a tour, you know, fighting against old, aged out fighters, and that was his slow farewell type of parade. So it could be possible that Canelo Alvarez is starting his farewell parade hella early. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one. All right, now check this out, guys. If you're looking to repair eczema scars, burns and bruises, dark spots and blemishes, fever blisters, diabetic ulcers, this right here is the perfect product for you guys. It's called Elo Diki Face and Body Oil. Athletes and top-ranking boxers, they're also using it after training to reduce swelling, inflammation, and to ease the pain. So get yours today. Go to elodiki.com, like them on Facebook, and follow them on Instagram.
One of the most anticipated dog breedings has finally been confirmed. The pups from this pairing of Zeta and DMX will be born very soon. We are now accepting deposits. Our pups will come with ears cropped and a 2-year health guarantee. Get ahead of the pack on purchasing a puppy by contacting NWA Cane Corsos on Instagram at NWA Cane Corsos. Call or text 479-326-1603 with any questions. A guard dog is your first line of defense. These will be the right pups for the job.
Let me tell you guys about Issa Israel Law Firm. It is a full-service legal practice based in Denver, Colorado, an emerging hub for combat sports and high-altitude training. If you're a fighter inside or outside of the ring and you need a law firm you can trust to fight for you, visit thefighterfirm.com or email help@iilawfirm.com. Legal representation is usually limited to plaintiffs or defendants in Colorado, but iFirm can help anyone in the world with trademarking their business name, logos, and U.S. immigration issues. This brother has been my attorney for a while and helped guide me through all kinds of business and civil issues, so make sure you guys go to thefighterfirm.com.